All right. We are live and just in time. We got about 5 minutes before the weekly close for Bitcoin and the rest of our cryptos. That is midnight GMT going into Monday, July 19th, I believe. It is not even close to that time here. It's about 2 o'clock where I'm at. But we are taking a look at the close, and we'll talk about that. Thanks for joining if you are watching live. If not, thanks for watching after the fact. We want to take a look at this. I've been looking at the same chart for a while. On the streams that I do on TradingView, we've discussed this in over and over again. But what we're looking at here is the Bitcoin weekly chart. Okay, and I've got a few things marked up here, and I'll go through those a little bit. And what we're looking at here is we've got this blue box here, and this is kind of the area that we've been working in for weeks now, right? Clearly you can see we've been moving that, and this is the first week we've actually broken below that, and we're actually closing the candle a little bit below this previous week's, it looks as though we will close this candle a little bit below the previous week's low, okay? And so this is something to watch. One of the things that I've really been looking for confirmation that we will see a continued move down is a break of 30, and specifically a weekly candle close below 30. And we see we've actually gapped down, or not gapped down, but just dipped down there a little bit a few times. Now, whether or not these are just liquidations or what, we're getting these long wicks on these candles here. This is the first one in weeks, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 weeks, I guess, where we've actually got a candle close or closing in this range. Okay, I guess it technically hasn't closed. We got about 3 more minutes. So that said, this is the first time where we're actually seeing where this is dipping lower. Now, there's something that's a little bit different this week in the news. We've been seeing, for weeks and weeks now, both positive and negative news surrounding Bitcoin and crypto in general. We've seen a lot of regulations being implemented globally on crypto, and we've also seen a lot of adoption, both institutional and governmental and otherwise. So, I guess the mindset around crypto right now is kind of going in both directions. Certainly you could take either side, and the price action reflects this. We've just kind of been moving sideways for weeks now. However, today, well, I suppose very soon, yesterday, July 18th, the Grayscale Bitcoin Trust unlock, right, is happening, allowing investors to effectively, get rid of any of the Bitcoin that they're holding. So there's been speculation in both directions again as to, where this is gonna lead us. Are we gonna see a dump from this and a massive push down and a sell off of some sort, or is that gonna get bought right back up? Is this, there's all sorts of different opinions as far as what that will do. So it'll be interesting to see. But I guess for the time being, I'm just going to take a look less speculatively in that manner, and more just at the technicals and kind of what I've been reviewing over and over and over again in the weeks past. And we got about a minute left, so I think it's safe to say that we're closing this pretty much below 32. We'll see here in about 48 seconds or so where we're at. But it's going to be interesting to see where this next week's candle will go. All right, so let's pull this out a little bit and take a look at some of the indicators that I've got set up here. So, one of the indicators that I use quite frequently and that I've actually created because I couldn't find anybody else who had done this yet, and I absolutely hate coding, but it was easy and was able to do it, is I utilize the Fibonacci levels, retracement levels on my RSI, okay? And I trade with these. And I find them very useful, and I could explain a few things as we move forward with this. But one of the things that I've been watching on the weekly, right, is that we have been below on our RSI this 50, and it looks like our week is closed. We are now officially into a new week on the chart. Okay, so we've got this, this 786-618-50, 382-236. Okay, is what we're looking at, and so we're below our 50. Okay, and I consider this 48 to 52 range, the dashed lines on our RSI, to be kind of a buffer zone, and really 382 is a nice area of support as well. Okay, but anything below this 50, I generally consider to be bearish, right? Anything above the 50, or specifically the 48 and 52, I consider to be bullish. When we see moves above the 618, okay, or below the 382, these moves generally tend to be parabolic in nature. Okay, get the alert out of here. And so, when we break above the 618, that generally tends to correspond with a break of some previous high. Okay, and we can see that was here the case. And then when we break below the 382, right, that generally tends to correspond with a break of some area of resistance, right? Or excuse me, support. So we break our resistance on the 618, we break our support below 382, okay? And I could show you instances of this happening again and again. Feel free to inspect that for yourself. But what we're looking at is we're kind of in this this weird region on the weekly here, where we could certainly dip down below this 382, and we could see a pretty significant impulsive candle to the downside, right? If we're looking at some of the other indicators here, and I just use 3 indicators 99% of the time. Most of the time I'm just looking at price action, support, resistance, that kind of stuff. But I do like to find some sort of support in these indicators, and these are what I use. So I've got the DMI here, the ADX, and then DMI, the Directional Movement Index. And what this does is this shows us that we are kind of, in a neutral area, but technically bearish. And then our MACD is actually broke below 0 on the weekly, so this is bearish too. So all these are kind of slightly bearish indications, right? So certainly it could be turned around pretty quickly with some volume, but my bias is going to have to lean toward the downside simply because we are below the 50. We have a negative directional index on top here, indicating that we have a slight bearish or downside, that there's a downward trend, and our trend is actually decreasing in strength. So it's very kind of neutral, which we would expect to see since we've been moving kind of sideways for the past few weeks. And then we've got our MACD, which is crossed 0, and looks like our signal is about to do the same. So we could potentially see a downside to this, okay? But there's a lot of speculation around the this head and shoulders pattern that we've seen, if you've been looking, I should say, pretty frequently around the speculative spaces, TradingView, whatever it is, where we're pushing against this neckline. We've got this, you could do it like that, you could say it's like this, whatever you want. I want to get rid of that, but that we're potentially filling out this head and shoulders, and we're about to break low. Fine, that's great. It potentially could very well happen. But I do want to bring to light, kind of this here, right? This area of support is significant here at this 30,000, 30 to 33, right? Roughly where we've been. And you can see these wicks, and obviously there's support here because these sell-offs have been bought back up pretty quickly. And so looking at these levels, this specific level, right, we could see that it's right here on our RSI, but also it's down here. So we have a bullish divergence, okay, here. And this generally indicates that we're going to see some, upward trend continuation. Now, it would make sense to me that if, a lot of analysts and people are looking at this head and shoulders, a lot of people are looking at this, this sell-off here and this downward pressure and the fact that we're pushing up against this and this little wedge, however you want to explain it, and anticipating a downside. There's likely shorts very, very well established here. I don't have that up right now. I'm not going to look for it, but needless to say that undoubtedly there are, those who are shorting this. I'm not sure what the ratio is, but you could very, very well get a squeeze out of here, and certainly I want to see it above 40. And this is the other kind of confirmation that I've been looking for over the past few weeks, is a weekly move and candle close above 40,000 to really indicate that we are showing an uptrend here, right? We would likely see it push up against 40, pull back down and retest this 36, 33, or whatever, this region again, and then just continue on from there. But until we get that, we're not really sure what's going on, which is why these weekly candle closes, at least in my opinion, are pretty important. We want to see what happens at the end of the week, and we want to see what happens at the end of the week's candle close. Okay, it's easy to look at these dailies or weekly or any candle for that matter and see it doing something and wanting to react, but until that candle is closed, we're not really, there's no real reason to get too worked up yet. So, but again, this is the first week we're seeing, and I really wanted to stream this, that we're seeing this close below the previous week in the body like this, right? And specifically in this region. We keep wicking down and pulling back up, and we've really held this 35,000, 34, I guess, really, pretty well. But this week has definitely closed below that, and it could be an indication that we're going to see this going down some more. So where is it going to go down to? Well, 0. No, just kidding. There's, I've got these regions, and I'm going to blow this up a little bit here. I've got these regions on the chart marked up for a reason. I've done this some time ago. Again, I've been utilizing this chart for weeks and weeks now. I haven't really added too much onto here, if any at all. And these kind of bigger areas are just areas where I would anticipate seeing support. These tighter ones and the dashed lines, these are actually areas where we've seen some Fibonacci clustering. And so rather than having, all of my fibs taking up a lot of space, I've just labeled these with a, dash line or a level or area of support. And one of the areas that I keep coming to, and I've actually, really want to focus in on, is this 20 to 22,000, block. I've got a lot wider here just because there's a lot of different, loose clusters, I guess we could call them, on the fibs, and other things that I'm seeing right in here, volume profile and everything is showing, below that, more up here clearly, but we're seeing this zone here. I'm really looking for some support. Okay, now that's if we break low. Okay, there's no guarantee that we are going to break low here, clearly, but if we do, these are the areas I'm looking for. I'm going to say this again though, until we get a solid candle close below 30, I'm anticipating more sideways movement. I'm anticipating maybe it just to kind of bounce around 30 and move up. There's, it's just kind of, I guess, boring for me. But, as a trader, there's certainly, every time we get a nice little green candle on the daily, even the 4 hour or the hour, all our alts are pumping. So there's definitely chances to, scalp or even do some, low time frame swinging. But, week by week, this is, it's just kind of just hanging out there, not really a lot going on. And I think, again, a lot of this has to do with the amount of potential regulation. We've got the XRP case, we've got the central bank digital currencies globally that are either in development or being pushed. We've got even, the United States is considering it and, kind of saying that central bank digital currencies are going to render crypto and Bitcoin potentially useless. Whatever your opinions are, that's fine. But again, I'm giving you just a technical perspective here and potentially what we could look for. So let's actually take this down to a lower time frame here on the 4-day and see what we're seeing. So again, we've just closed our weekly candle, so we should see a reset across the board here. This 4-day candle, not much to see here. just yet. We dipped down a little bit. We've come up a little bit in the past 10 minutes. Whoop-de-doo. A lot of time left on this 4-day candle. Let's take a look at this with our other indicators here. Clearly bearish here. We are well below our zero. We do have our negative directional index pushing up above our ADX, which is generally a bearish indication. Now, what I want to focus in on here, specifically on this 4-day, is what our RSI is doing. Now, again, this is why I utilize these levels on the RSI, utilizing the Fibonacci retracement levels on the RSI. You can see pretty clearly that the RSI has been sitting here on this 382 pretty tightly, right? And you can see again that the day that it dipped below this 382, right, we had this massive 16% sell-off candle, and then when it moved back up above it, on this green candle here, we had a 13% impulsive candle up. So again, this is precisely why I utilize the Fibonacci retracement levels on my RSI, because the 382 seemingly, if not 39, if you or 3.8 just flat out, is significant. Anytime we dip below that, it generally corresponds with a break of some area of support, and you get these impulsive candles. And when it busts back above it, you see these kind of impulsive candles moving up, but it's more so these impulsive candles down, right? And the fact that we've just been riding this 382 kind of, it's got me, I don't want to say nervous, because if we dip, I've got limit orders in place, so I'm happy to see those get filled. But it's certainly, something that I'm keeping my eye on, right? We want to watch this 382 on this 4-day for another move down below, because if we do get a move below this, and especially if it's, corresponding with a lot of volume, then we're going to see probably a substantial sell-off candle, a big, if not another, just wick down. Okay, look at it, 26 here at I guess this first area that I've labeled here. But let's move down to the 2-day. Okay, now I'm going to make a couple cases here, right? On the 2-day, and probably even down here to the 1-day. Okay, you can see on this RSI against price action something specific that I can point out on multiple different time frames here. Excuse me. And that is this divergence, right? Again, we have this break of this here, okay, and that corresponded with our break of this area of support, okay? Again, this 382 or 618, these are areas where we see pretty substantial moves once price action or the RSI moves in these regions, okay? And so we had that. You can see it again here. We had another break, the 382. That was right here, right? That was this area of support that we were finding right here. Broke below it, came back up. We had a slight little divergence, easier to see on the 1-day, but right here and here, indicating a trend continuation. So we pushed down again. And so now we're currently, okay, on this now 2-day candle, finding a little bit support on this 382. Okay, now this could turn very quickly, obviously, and considering this, we've got this wedge pattern here, okay, right here and here, or we could see a triangle. I've had this triangle built out for some time. It's not meant to be end all to be all, but we've been filling out this region, so I've just held that there. As we're reaching the apex of this triangle, it is corresponding with what had happened, what is now yesterday, but the GBTC unlocking. So we will, I feel like in the next 24 to 48 hours, have a substantial move in one direction or another, okay? Now, if it continues to move sideways, well, then it continues to move sideways. But it just looks to me like it's ready, right? Because if this pushes up, it's likely to break out of this triangle. If it breaks out of this triangle, we're likely to see some sort of squeeze and push up closer to maybe 36 to 40, okay? However, if it breaks low here and we see this push down into this region again, we might see another fat candle, 10, 15 or more percent drop down, and a 15% sell off, or even a 10% sell off from, oh, excuse me, from our, hold on, let me clear some of this out. I'm just like marking this thing up way too much. So from our current price, 10 to 15 would put us at 27, right? So down here, 26 may not happen, but right here in this region, I think would be fair. That's 8. But if we do come down here, and if we hit down to 25, that's a 23% sell-off, right? Again, I'm not saying that this is going to happen, but what I'm illustrating here is that this region here, when we do break below this on our RSI, we tend to see these impulsive candles move, okay? And on the other side of the spectrum here, when we see pushes above the 618, we see these impulsive candles moving upward as well, okay? So watching this, again, currently, it seems to be ticking up a little bit, but that could change in a moment's notice. Again, this is a 2-day candle, so looks like we have one more day left to close this candle now. And then, of course, our daily, right? So something to be pointed out here is this divergence, though, right? Is that we have this divergence here, okay? So we're making higher lows on our RSI, but we're making lower lows, albeit slightly, on our price action, okay? Now, with this, though, is something that I see frequently, and it needs to be considered, is kind of, and we'll take this on the 2-day again, is kind of this M-shaped pattern. We see this massive sell-off, and then you kind of get like this dead cat bounce, moves down one more, and then it makes another lower low, or it tests some area of support, right? And it tends to diverge before we find confluence. It moves out and then makes a higher low, and then our RSI makes a higher low as well, okay? Now, whether or not that's already happened, it may have already occurred, and I'll get rid of these with this here and then this here, right, where we came like this, divergence, and then some confluence we have now, okay? But we don't have any confirmation that this is the case, right? We don't have a nice impulsive candle moving up and then a retest and then, like a wave 3 getting out of there. So we're really watching this. Now, stick it back to the daily. If we do continue to move up here, that's great. However, what I tend to see is this, here and then a break lower, right? And then it moves up and out of there, okay? Or it just continues on the trend. So, what we've seen here, though, right, is that it's the RSI has attempted to move into the bullish range up here above 50 multiple times over the past, few weeks, past month, really. It just hasn't done it. Okay, so we're bouncing around in this kind of neutral range right here. Yeah, and so just kind of hanging out here. But if we do break low, and it doesn't take much, we're on the daily, 2-day, kind of in neutral range, riding that 382 again. 4-day, riding that 382 again. And the weekly, we're not so close, but certainly it could go down there in a heartbeat. So, the fact that we're so close to this region, this 382, is concerning in the fact in that, if it does break below that, we're likely to see that finally push, I should say, below this region. And that said, there's not a lot of volume. We can pull up our volume profile here. You can see that, let me take it out of log. There's not a ton of volume in this region. So if we break below this 30,000 and we start to see stops just getting executed in these cells, we likely gap down to this 26 for first area of support, and then down here to 24. Again, I've keep seeing 22 come across in my analysis, so tends to be some significance there, at least for me. And then of course 20, depending on how dirty this thing could potentially get. None of these levels should be surprising if you've got your ear to the ground. Certainly there's all sorts of different analysts all looking at the same exact thing. I'm just giving you my perspective of this and why I'm looking at it the way that I am. Okay. Again, it has more to do with the positioning of our RSI. Okay. And this zone right here that we're seeing confluence on across different periodicities, right? The daily, oh goodness, no, don't do that. Just get rid of this thing. Yes, thank you. Yeah, so the day, 2-day, 4-day, okay, and then the weekly, all just hanging out right there, right at this 382, okay. And again, if the higher the time frame, the stronger the push when these things happen, right? So this little dip into this 382 here, right? If we look at, this is on a weekly chart right now. This little dip down, okay, was a 33% sell-off on this weekly, right? And then it came back up. The last time we dipped below it right here, okay, and then moved into this region, right? We had a 12 followed by a 30% sell-off, okay, on the weekly. So if we move down in there again, considering I guess the average there is roughly about 30%, but even if we say the average, or that we were to take a 20% tumble, we're looking at 20% is 25,000, okay, and if we look at 30%, that is 22,000. So there is that 22,000 again popping up. So if the past is any indication, given this analysis of our price action moving below 382, okay, below this 382, then we could anticipate seeing 20 to 22,000. I should say 22,000 to 20,000, 25 to 22 to 20,000 come in pretty quickly. Now, whether or not it stays down there is yet to be seen. If it does even go down there in the first place, I will say though that it would make sense to me that we would see that get gobbled up pretty quickly and jump right back up. Okay. But, that said, we do have this bullish divergence seemingly at the moment right here. But we don't have confirmation. I'm not seeing confirmation just yet. And this here, this curve right here, right, tends to make me think that this is going to go to the downside more. Now, the other indicators that I look at, that I pay attention to, which, if I'm not certain, or I just want something to really resolve my bias, or resolve I guess a burning question in my head, which way are we going to go, is my DMI, right? The ADX and the directional movement indicators here, the negative directional indicator, and this here is negative, right? Like we have the red, which is your DI minus or negative DI above our green, okay? And then the ADX potentially is increasing, but it's not a super strong trend, but it is a seemingly kind of strong trend. So, we could just continue on. We're seeing this and this here, right, on our MACD, where we just are trying to push up against zero to get us back in this bullish field up here. Just hasn't happened, right? So there is a lot of indications that we will go down some more here, right? So I guess my bias will have to be toward the downside just based on these indicators, okay, on the daily. So that's Bitcoin. Let's go ahead and take a look at Ethereum. And so Ethereum has actually been is in a different boat here to some degree, right? Let's go to the weekly on Ethereum. I've marked this up. I'm not exactly sure. Oh, this was a trend-based fib extension. So Ethereum is sitting on right at the 50 here, okay, on our RSI, okay. Technically it's bullish, right? So on the weekly, my higher time frame, I think this is still kind of bullish. It's in a bullish zone, though the signal and the MACD are actually pushing down. It is still above zero, so slightly bullish there as well, but really neutral in this area. Okay, take this down to the 4-day. You can see it's kind of pushing up against that 382 here. We do have our negative directional index moving above the ADX here, and then we're pushing below zero on the 4-day. Now the 2-day, we see that we're finding support at the 382, right? We had a little bit, we are seeing confluence, at least on this time frame, where we've made a lower low and then a higher low, lower low and then a higher low. We push it to the daily. You can see we had a little bit of a divergence here, which gave us a little pump. But then we have this here, and I think the last time I was looking at this, I was kind of looking for this push down, where we got rejected at 50, and we had this bearish, hidden bearish divergence, right, where we were getting kind of a double top on our RSI and making lower highs here, which is a trend continuation indicator, right? So for our Ethereum, we're looking for this to really kind of push above this 25,000 and get a nice solid weekly close above that, okay? Or we're going to see a weekly close and push below this 18, which could see us push down to 14 for sure, right? I don't think that that's too out of the realm of possible, I should say here. And again, just to illustrate why I utilize this the way that I do, we broke our 382 here. You can see that corresponded with a break of this area of support, and we had this, 15% candle push down, right? And, I could show you other instances in the past where we see kind of a similar thing right here, right? We had a break of our support here and pushed into this region down here, and then of course we had a massive sell-off. Now this all corresponds with Bitcoin, obviously, but this was a 43% sell-off for Ethereum. No bueno there. But again, we're really just sitting really close to this on the daily, this 382, okay? And again, technically bearish here, where our negative directional index is on top, and then our MACD is in this bearish zone as well. So, it's really something to watch. Now, a lot of this is likely to correspond with, Bitcoin. If Bitcoin dumps, pretty much everything else is going to go down with it. Okay, not everything, but certainly most things in the market, because it does have dominance at the moment. So there's that. Now, I do want to look at Cardano. ADA USD. Let's go here. Let's take this against the dollar on Bitfinex. Let's see how much data we have here. Okay. So Cardano on the daily here, been holding up pretty well. Now we're seeing this kind of across the board even, right? Where we've got some area of, let me just draw it out here, some area of support, right, that continues to be tested, okay? And filling out kind of this wedge or this triangle, okay? You can see this on many of the different cryptos right now, okay? And, again, it's just a lot of like sideways movement here. This has been ranging in this area. But, whether or not we push out of this and come back up to $1.50 here on Cardano, or we break low, again, this is likely to correspond with Bitcoin, which is why a lot of my focus has just been on Bitcoin and what's going on there. Okay, but it is finding support. Certainly, if you're looking to trade this would be a pretty low risk entry here, depending on how wide you wanted your stop to be. Was it below this candle, below this one? Or are you just accumulating? But this does look to be like a pretty decent entry. I would wait until the next day close, see if we push up a little more here. But I would say if you're looking to accumulate, not a bad place to buy some. However, again, on the daily, you see we're below our 382 here, and if we push lower, okay, we do break this low here, we're likely to see this dip down to this dollar region again, right? And find some support down here, okay, which could very well occur, especially if Bitcoin sells off. So just some things to consider. Let's take us back to Bitcoin here. Whew. And I'm running out of breath. So, I'm not going to just beat a dead horse and just repeat the same things. Certainly you can go back and watch this, but you know, we've got our weekly candle close here. And again, that body for the first time in some time has really closed below this region up here at 34, right? And it's actually down here at 31, okay? Now, I'm not calling for, you know, any massive sell-off or anything like that until we see this push below likely 30, but specifically looking at the RSI pushing below this 382 region and closing below this 382 region, right? That's likely going to correspond with a break of our support here at 30,000, okay? Or I guess we could say 30.5, somewhere in this region, right? So be watching that closely. However, you know, conversely, we have this guy here, this divergence, right? So we could just find support here and break out. If we break out, look for our first area of confirmation, about 33, 34,000. I'm still looking for a 40,000 weekly close. Come down, retest this 33, 35, whatever down here, and then keep going on and make it all the way to $10 bazillion, as everybody anticipates Bitcoin to do, right? But no, for real, you know, until we see confirmation one way or the other, it's, you know, it's all speculation at this point. You know, it's everybody who wants to speak in certainty, you know, welcome back from the future. Outside of that, I don't know what's going to happen any more than the next person. And all we can do is wait, review, speculate, and just mitigate our risk, right? And that's the ideal situation. So I'm going to just end this here. Thank you for watching. Oh, man, my nose got immediately stuffy there. Thanks for watching. Give us a like, give us a follow, give us a subscription, subscribe. I don't know. I'm not good at this, but, you know, I appreciate everybody, you know, listening and joining. And yeah, we'll get on this here probably in the next couple days. I'm going to be releasing a few more videos. And yeah, so I appreciate it. And everybody have a great day. Trade safe.